and what's going on?
Sure.
And
Yep. So currently we have just launched, as you would have seen my post, we've launched the videos officially, which we needed to do to, I guess, all of our sponsors last week. I've been setting up the YouTube account and I've loaded up all of the videos up there. Greg is working on the website because there's been some issues there.
mm-hmm.
So that had to be transferred over from somebody who had control over it
Uh-huh.
to B4B.
Yep.
So they're in the process of doing that, which we will then have to find the appropriate spot to put that on, or to create those posts. So I guess that might take a couple of weeks or a month or so. I would love to actually apply for a grant so we can revamp the website look and feel, because I feel it's a little bit dated in terms of what it currently looks like and what it potentially could look like. So I'll be discussing that with Chris and Greg in terms of that look and feel.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Dean.
So where we're at now is just getting all of the social stuff happening. So I sat down with Chris yesterday. We opened up a Instagram account and a LinkedIn account, or started anyway. So that needs to be fine-tuned in terms of the actual.
Yeah, I'd almost. I did see something came on LinkedIn as well. I'd almost hold off until we sit together, to be honest, with all that sort of stuff. Potentially, just in terms of making sure that we set it. I'll give you a whole checklist of what we would work through, and making sure that it's sort of integrated the way that we kind of want to have. Often, what happens otherwise is we almost spend more time doing retro, going back. But that's okay. As I said, I know that you're sort of familiar, so you kind of probably have some better sense than others, maybe. So but it's just something I can easily help with. It sounds like what it might be best in the first instance just to do is actually make sure that we do have that sort of setup and revision, really, with the 6 channels really up and ready. And as you said, then that way, what I often find is that can then help educate almost a revamped website. In some ways, because they're all templated, there's an element of that. It's not hard to make the socials look pretty good, particularly given the work you've done around the video side of things. So that should look awesome. And as I said, then that might help. The thinking around, okay, well, we've got these social media channels and sites set up, which are websites in their own right. Realistically, how do we make sure we then get the most out of both those channels, but also the website? So, I reckon
so
we should be okay.
That's why I thought because we only had an account or a Facebook account. We didn't have this B4B. Didn't have an account on Instagram or LinkedIn, and I haven't done Twitter yet.
But that's what our grant was all about, or in terms of the way we tend to is around just getting them set up for people, so that.
So how do we go about that?
Yeah, we just set up a time. Usually it's a 3-hour session. Realistically, we sit down and just literally go through it, and just get them.
Remember.
Yeah. And I mean, look, realistically, whether and who is on that, and how they're on that, realistically, just so long as someone that's going to have the ownership and access, which clearly, as seeing whether that's Chris or Greg or as well, so that they then, have that.
Turn off your camera and just put it on phone. Right, then just put it to your ear. But there should be a bot setting on your. There should be a setting on your phone, which will have camera, and then you can turn that camera off and just put it to your phone.
Who are you talking to?
You.
Oh, look, I'm having all sorts of problems here. Sorry, I didn't realise it was. I couldn't get the link to my computer. I think you should just chat amongst yourselves. I could hear what you were saying.
If you've got your computer open, have you got your computer open, Greg?
Yep.
So if you've got your computer open, I'll just read out the link for you, and you just type that in the URL bar.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so just while
Yeah,
you're
no, I just thought it was a normal phone call, so
yeah.
I wasn't up. Yeah, www. Yep,
Yeah, so whereby, as in
yep,
WHEREBY
yep,
.com /
yep.
Dify DIFY social
Say that again.
Dify DIFY social
Right.
Diffie social.
Social.
Yep.
Yep,
/
yep.
Steve Hubbard.
STEVE Hubbard.
Hubbard,
Yep,
HUBBARD. And
yep.
if you go and write that into the URL bar up the top of your
And push
screen
enter.
and you go enter, yeah, it should just come up as if it's a Zoom call. Oh, he might have just popped off, but that's what he's going to try and do. All right.
Yeah. So what? Sorry, Steve. What you said. Great meeting you for a start.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
You've been so patient.
Oh, that's okay.
At the end of the day, I think Rochelle has probably explained, we had some issues trying to get our finances in check. Greg,
Hello.
look at you. What a legend. You got a camera. Good on you. Well done. Yeah, good job. Now, yeah, we had some issues trying to get our finances over the line, our grants over the line, and at the end of the day, we ended up with a bit of a bonus. That's fantastic. What you said before about getting the account set up sounded, just amazing. Because I think you need to set them up the way you want them set up, so that who's on them. Greg's more familiar with Instagram. Uh, I jump on Facebook from time to time, and now my wife said last night, great, now you've got all these different social media platforms that you're going to have your head into. Excuse me. I will never get any time from you ever again. Great.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think you have to worry about that. It's fair to say that, and Rochelle probably knows this, most business owners that I work with are generally a 10-year swing from me. So they're either 10 years younger or 10 years older. So, realistically, you can be involved as little or as much often around what
Yeah.
we're doing. So you don't actually have to invest. What it's more about doing is, if you think about them, to put it in the a mind map type, if you like, think of them as 6 different vehicles, and realistically what we're going to do is create these various cars, if you like, and we're going to set them up in such a way where you own them. The business for Beaufort effectively own these platforms, and then people like Rochelle, who's creating content, and then I actually share that content through those 6 channels effectively, in a strategic way. I've got something I'll show you, because I know I just provided something for you for the grant purposes, but I think it's important maybe that I just explain what we'll actually do. Is that all right, Michelle, in terms of what we actually provide in the first place? So I'll just share my screen, and it's good now. I think Greg should be able to see this, I reckon, now, given he's on.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
well done. Good job.
yes. So just bear with me, and then that way, if you've got any questions, we can sort of talk those through. But the reality is, we kind of, from a setup, creation, into planning and posting, we kind of hold hands together on it all. Right? My business is called Do It For You, but reality is we do it together. Realistically, is that I basically take information from the people that I'm working with, and effectively we set up a plan and we have a posting schedule. But the first thing we did was around that audit, right? So the first thing that we'll create for you is this Google business, right? A Google business map, essentially, so you'll be searchable. And nowadays on Google we can post. But the reason we put this in is to actually see what you can find when you put in business for Beaufort in the first place. At the moment, yeah.
Sorry, Steve, just so that we, I guess, just to direct that, the purpose, what we're trying to actually achieve is not specifically through business for Beaufort. Like, business for Beaufort is like, SBA or
Yeah.
a association. But the actual goal is to actually put the content on Destination Beaufort, because that's going to be the platform. And so where you've got the Facebook there, Business for Beaufort, there is actually a Facebook account called Destination Beaufort.
So yeah, that's a good point. So effectively, what are we? Is it Destination Beaufort that we're really trying to create um, the channels for?
promotion on.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
Destination Beaufort is what it's all about. Well, then on that basis, then um, so effectively, I would
That would
almost
be replaced.
change
Yeah.
naming of Business for Beaufort, right? Effectively, I
Well,
would make
Business for Beaufort is the
the
actual
not-for-profit sort of.
organisation.
Registered
So
business
that's
name.
probably still needs to exist because it needs a home.
Yeah.
But we do. They've already set up, and which is currently being used.
Yep.
It has a couple of admins. So I'm an admin. Chris is an admin. There's
Yep.
a lady from, I guess, the council as such. It's called the Resource Centre.
Yep.
She does work for the council. She's an admin, and there's another committee member who also is on the Arts Council. I
Yep.
think that's everyone. Is
So,
that
so
right,
what we
Chris?
probably want to do is make it really clear. Effectively, what you're telling me, I think, is that it's Destination Beaufort with Business for Beaufort as the controlling or managing body. Is that fair to
Yes,
say?
that's
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's spot on.
Yeah. So
Yep.
essentially, everything that's sort of probably public facing, it's probably more important that it's all about Destination Beaufort. Would that be fair to
yes,
say? Yep.
exactly. Because we don't, Business for Both, it doesn't have a website. So
No.
everything is going to
No.
be on
Correct. Yep.
Destination
Yeah.
Beaufort.
So
Um,
So probably there's an element of it's interesting because the Destination Beaufort actually does come up when you're doing the search around it anyway. But like you
yeah,
said, I think if I was to put in here Destination Beaufort, I still think there's a map that's required is required. Is that fair to
probably.
say?
I don't know. I'm not,
Destination.
yeah, it might not come at all because
Um,
BEA.
did I
Sorry,
spell
so
that right? Whoop,
yeah,
BEA. Yep.
there it is on the bottom.
Yeah. Yep. Beaufort. Yeah, so no, it shows me where Beaufort is, but there's no, effectively there's nothing
Yeah.
around. So setting up a Google business profile, which we can post to regularly as well,
Okay.
and that will just make it.
Yeah.
It will really help, particularly from the website of things.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's probably in terms of doing this. If I go back to here, yeah, so effectively, the first thing is, what comes up largely when you put in Business for Beaufort or Destination Beaufort, they're kind of related, but we want to get that
Yeah.
Google profile so that we actually
Yep.
know, and we want to make sure in the language that in actual fact it's consistent as well. I think I jumped straight into then Business for Beaufort
Perfect. Yeah.
without knowing that, yeah. So just from a um, and I don't know if this was clearly when I did it. I don't know if it's changed since this, right? But just so you understand, with any social medias, this big cover image here is should, and again, without knowing what you've done at the moment, this should be where your logo goes. So this
Mm.
would probably be. Does Destination Beaufort have a logo?
Yeah, so we just did that. So if
Okay.
you type in this Destination Beaufort into your Facebook page or click
Oh, yeah.
onto, so here it is there, Destination Beaufort.
Oh, okay. There's a Destination Beaufort Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, there.
Okay. Yeah. So
We've
this is the
just,
one we'd actually be doing. Is that
yeah,
correct? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So we've just been in the process of getting the logos and stuff
Okay. Yeah.
done through
Yeah.
a graphics person.
So yeah, this is much better, right? But again,
Yeah,
this is actually wasted. You wouldn't do this, right? So
okay,
to be honest, you're already telling people where to find it. This would
yeah,
actually be better to be just a picture of Beaufort, because it actually often, particularly across the different platforms, whether it's mobile phone or computer, it often then becomes you wouldn't read this anyway, and it's kind of the logo is always going to appear. It's all about
mhm,
imagery. So as soon as so I think that's the best bet is rather than sort of graphically putting that in over the
yeah,
covers, it's sort of unnecessary. It actually becomes quite difficult to sit in all your different social medias as well. So
definitely.
often if we put anything in, we might put a watermark in potentially around it. But yeah, realistically, this looks good, right? So again, you've got your logo in the right spot, and then your cover image, and this.
So what you're saying is to take off because I put that image in. I actually asked somebody to put
Yeah,
the logo on there
yeah, yeah.
so that people could actually see
I,
the
I
logo.
wouldn't bother, but and my other suggestion to you would be this kind of just looks like any vast country area. So I would almost suggest if it's largely around destination Beaufort and destination and business for Beaufort, I would probably try and have something that's more resonates with people and business and the towns and that sort of stuff, right? So in actual fact, so that we can actually, so it tells me, oh, that's Beaufort, you know what I mean, or that's the people of Beaufort, potentially.
Are
Yeah.
you suggesting that it should be a picture of the band Rotunda?
Well,
What do you think, Greg? No, I'm saying that in
Yes.
two reasons, Steve. Because
these pictures,
Dislike
the joke.
so these, my sense is these, it could be but you know, pictures like this, which are people from Beaufort,
that was our
yeah, so
launch.
those sort of things, where I would suggest to you that that sort of is going to resonate a lot more than.
Yeah, but the destination Beaufort is the places, not the actual. I mean, it's
I
the people.
understand, yeah, that's right. But I think as somebody that knows where Beaufort is,
Yeah,
but don't know what it's going to drag me in there, that
yeah,
looks nice, but it kind of
yeah.
looks like country Victoria anywhere. You know what I mean?
Okay,
That's the only
fair
thing I
enough.
would
Yeah,
say is that maybe you could have a slightly um, so that someone that's been to Beaufort or someone's from Beaufort, and look, this picture, if you're from Beaufort, straight away you know where this is. I guess everybody
yeah,
does. So,
yeah.
and look,
It's the lake.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
the lake
yeah,
there, and that's
yeah,
what the and there's
and
the caravan.
and maybe it's as simple as again, anyway, without getting
Yeah,
caught up in it, the
sure.
reality
Yeah,
is the cover image is what it should be, whereas compared to business for Beaufort, that's completely wrong, right?
yeah,
Whereas in
yeah,
this instance, you know, coming up with a good banner, which is kind of important because it should also then frame what your banner image probably looks like on your website, right? So, and maybe, yeah, as I said, we're kind of going through this part, but maybe what I should do is take one step back before we do an audit, right? The first thing that we look at is why. I'll just go to here. Um, is understanding what our kind of model is. I'll try and make this so it's of a size that you can easily see. Um,
Yeah, can see that, can read that.
yeah, okay. Any problem is, hang on 1 second. Should come back in a sec. Just get my things across. All right. All right. So typically we're using a strategy that takes information from a website where people may or may not visit and gets it to the social media feeds, which are these key four feeds here, right? So we know that there's an actual fact. This is a bit outdated now. There's over 18 million on Facebook, but you get the point. There's millions of people on these social channels, and there's millions of people that are going to, well, are using Google as their search engine effectively.
mm-hmm.
That's why we sort of set up these social and search channels in order that we can post to them, and they're all about the feed. So you guys would have had, I don't know, what is there a local newspaper up there in Beaufort, or is it?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
if you understand the local newspaper, you kind of understand social media, particularly these four feeds. All social media have news feeds. And our intent when we're posting is to post into so that your followers will see your posts in those news feeds. Does that make sense? It's not about setting up another 6 social media sites, albeit that they have advantages in search. But you know, the amount of people that actually visit the Facebook page or visit, or visit the LinkedIn company page is minimal by comparison to the amount of people that see it in the feed, particularly when we're promoting. So as soon as we put a dollar on, and that's kind of what we talk about over here, right? So um, uh, the reality is that organic posting to social media, and we use Facebook as the example, on a good day, albeit that you're likely to be slightly more popular than, say, a bookkeeping business because you're actually about a collective of people that are trying to promote Beaufort as a destination. You know, on a good day, you might get 10 to 20% max seeing a post,
yeah,
which, let's say you've got 1,000 people following at the moment. That might mean on a very good day, you get 100 to 150 people seeing a particular post in the feed.
yeah.
Now, as soon as we spend a dollar and most businesses we're spending sort of $5 a day on promoting. And Rochelle's done all these videos right around it, I imagine. Am I right in
Yeah.
saying all these? There's a number of them.
There's 15.
Yep. And so particularly is when we put money on promoting a video, all of a sudden we know that spending $150 a month, and let's say we do a split between awareness and traffic. So in other words, we want maximum people seeing it in the feed and maximum people going across to find out more in the website, then we're likely to get about 15,000 seeing a particular post each month. Does that make sense? So
It increases it.
and probably hundreds going to the website by
Yeah.
comparison to an organic post where you're going to get small hundreds and maybe one or two people doing that. So
Yeah.
that's the reality, is that the strategy is to post through the channels, get in the feeds, and with this, and particularly where you've created specific content like you have, is to actually actively promote that in the feeds, because you know that you can and you've got a series of videos. So the question then becomes is there a sort of overview? You said there's 15. Is that because it's 15 different businesses, or
No, they're not even businesses. They're
no,
all locations.
or
So
location?
they're
Oh yeah.
all, well, not all locations. They're all based on themes. So we have 5 main themes.
Hmm.
One which is water, nature, arts, accommodation, and relaxation. And then there's a certain number of videos in between that promotes, like, there's golf, there's the park run, Mount Cole, which is one of the accommodation places, which is Greg's place. Active, what else is there? The art tracks, which is an actual art gallery type place.
Yep.
And some of the actual places that, so activities such as bushwalking. So basically the goal here is to actually educate people that Beaufort isn't a drive-through.
No. Okay. Yep.
Because that's what people think.
Right.
So the goal is not to actually is to get people out of the idea that, sorry, if you can't actually see our videos because they're all hidden at the moment. I've loaded them up, but because I haven't written anything up.
Oh, you haven't. Is the count? Is the YouTube account searchable yet, or no?
Yes, it should be searchable. Destination Beaufort.
I've got to get my Beaufort right. It's BEAUFORT. I've spelled that right now, haven't I? There you go. Destination Beaufort. Yeah.
So it's because it's new. I don't know if it's because there's Caroline's. I'll give you the actual link.
Okay. Oh, but the only thing I was thinking. Okay, yeah. What is the link? Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
I'll just put it in the chat.
Yeah, we'll do. I'll grab that.
And
because I mean,
I
really,
actually
it sounds to me that immediately we're going to have the capacity, as much as anything, to actually almost use the YouTube channel as the website in the first place, because that's where you kind of want to get people to, and that's the only one that doesn't have a feed, by the way. And so, so essentially, as Rochelle was saying, there's still some stuff to be done, but effectively, and you've done well. You've got that, at least on my big screen, you've even managed to get. This is one of the most trickiest ones actually to get fitting right. So you've done well to actually get that in. But also we include all the links to the website and the social media channels in here, so that basically, effectively, the YouTube channel becomes the next best thing to the website side of things. So, so it looks like it, as you said, at this stage, you've made them private at this stage. Yep. So
Yep. Just because I had to load them up last night, and I've got to write some descriptions of each one.
Yep.
Of each video.
Yep.
Which I'll be working on today.
Yep.
And like, if you want to actually, I can send you the link, Steve, to the actual video.
I don't think, as I said, at this stage, I think the things become just to make the easiest element of what we wanted to do. It seems like, as you said, you've made a good start on a few of the channels, so it's probably just making sure that we revise and add to any of the ones that are currently need revision and adding to, and probably even in that session, I'll be able to maybe help. From a wording perspective, even just making sure that they're complete. But essentially, it's around setting up these channels, which if without going back to the audit, because effectively what we know is that that's kind of not relevant. Where does Radio 88 sit in within it, by the way? Is it still part of that sort of?
Yeah, so what it is, Chris can probably tell you more. Do you want to voice up?
Thank you very much.
So Radio 88 is a community radio, and it's one of the benefits that B2B members have. And so, you know, it's the, what is it? What do they call it? I don't know. It's a community radio, is it? It's tourist radio.
Yeah, it's Steve. It's actually well, people call it a community radio, but it's not. It's a tourist radio station. It's automated, so it's not live. We're looking at streaming it, but it really is only for the local people in Beaufort, and hopefully that people will coming into the town will tune in to the FM 88 if they're staying in town or they're travelling through, especially either in the caravan park or in the free camp. If they saw the sign there, FM 88, tuned in, they would hear some music and they would hear some advertising of what you can actually do in Beaufort and the services that we provide.
Mm-hmm.
That's mainly it. It's a small part of it. Yeah.
So is there a place on the social medias just to talk about business for Beaufort and the radio, or is it just purely we're only going to be doing Destination Beaufort sort of posts?
So what my thoughts are is B2B needs to show value to, and I was talking to Chris about this yesterday because I was trying to think about, there's 15 videos which we can promote, but we have businesses who are part of B2B. And so how I was imagining this, which needs to go through the committee and all that sort of stuff, is those members, when we get the website up, back up again, and the posts updated with members' information, is to actually use some of those posts from a particular business. So one of the businesses that will be joining is called Ruby and Ray, which is she's actually a hairdresser, and they have like giftware and stuff like that in there. So we're hoping to be able to push that. This is what I'm picking, because you know the amount of posts is one of those posts, or a couple of those posts might be about the businesses that are in the surrounding areas. So it actually shares the types of things that are there, as well as the types of activities that we've done, which is the videos. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'd sort of I did the Footscray Traders website for a long time, social media, I should say, but effectively, I've done a number of business network type ones as well, where effectively you're, you know, you can have a showcase sort of business member. It's just probably, as far as the planning session, working out how you do that in such a way that nobody's nose is going to be out of joint, perhaps, is that, you know, but if you're doing it over a period of time, you just do it in a fair and equitable way.
Yeah, well, that's what we think. We thought that we'll probably, again, it's a bit of a work in progress in my mind of how this would all work. But I'm figuring that if we have, you know, as much content as we possibly can that's relatable to Beaufort and the surrounds, the surrounds, and then, but actually focus the actual promotion of the business who are members through social. Again, that needs to be something that needs to be discussed and worked on, and it may grow. So part of the goal is to actually get the membership through that through advertising. People can actually see that there is value as being part of a member. That's my thinking. Obviously, most membership organisations have the question that comes through from a business owner saying, "Well, what's in it for me?" So what's in it for them? The member would be the fact that they're getting promoted through Destination Beaufort on all of these channels as well, which is what I'm thinking that we could get you to do.
So Rochelle. Greg here. No, you make a good point that we could be using. I hadn't thought of that.
using social media channels to sort of spruik. I've been on about spruiking B4B the last few weeks, and what we do, well, social media could be the missing piece. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, sounds like
Yeah,
a good idea. Yep.
yeah,
And Steve, you touched on where the radio sits. Well, if we could spruik the radio so that people, when they get here, not only are they looking for the social media, but they're listening to the radio, and it's music, it's advertising our services as well. It's another way, because you see, not everybody sitting in the caravan park or the free camp is going to be on social media, but they'll tune the
exactly.
radio. The old fogies will turn the radio on and listen to the radio. So
Even in
Yeah.
some of the destination locations, Chris, where Wi-Fi is not good, if there's a radio there in the cabins and so forth, then and people know about Radio 88, that would be a good way for them to actually tap into that. So my thinking is that we feed B2B through Destination Beaufort, but complemented. So it needs to be a balance of what people can do. So it's all about promoting Beaufort in essence. So part of it will be the businesses, part of it will be the activities, part of it will be the places that they can go visit. So it's a combination of all things, because I guess the biggest thing that we want to try and get through people's minds, because I'll be guilty of it and say, when we drove through Beaufort, we thought, that's it. Well, it's not. So that's part of the goal, is to show people that whilst people drive through Beaufort to go to the next destination, we want them to be the destination and see what else is there.
Yeah.
yeah,
So I've worked just a couple of things, just a couple of points, right? So firstly, don't overthink it too much with the socials. Like half the time when we're promoting to people on, particularly on Facebook, they don't even know they're being targeted, right? So that's the reality. So it gets into their feed. I work with a number of uh, accommodation sort of businesses that generally speaking, you need to almost target visiting friends and relatives, otherwise you'd spend your money way too quick, because the
Yeah,
reality is it's too, and there's plenty of other people probably spending money in other ways to go for international and interstate and all that sort of thing. Realistically, you kind of have, whilst you have a couple of key target audiences, the only time that's really relevant is when you're advertising. The
yeah,
rest of the time is you're just educating about Business for Beaufort,
yeah,
the radio station, and clearly Destination Beaufort is probably the number one, right? Why do you want to come and stop and spend time in Beaufort? The other thing is you've got an advantage which most others don't. Usually, when there's one other traditional radio form that people are using, or sorry, marketing form, advertising form, which you have a community radio station, it means the socials actually go like the clappers. It helps. Right? So
mm,
because effectively it's like fruit salad, people often with marketing communications, the more you use, the better it is for you, right? So the fact that you've got capacity to promote one and the other through that. So usually, as I said, you've already got, in some ways almost problematic, you've probably got 11 more videos than what most of my clients have. So at best, my clients usually will have one video, right? So,
yeah,
and whilst Rochelle, and even that, a good trick for one video, I can splice often 20 photos from one video, right? So for clients, that's not unusual for me to do that. So then again, there's one times 20, but you've got 12 potentially times 10 or 20, right? So there's plenty of visual content. So when I talk about content, there's only two things that make up content, right? It's the words you use and the
mm,
visuals you use. So effectively, we might, you know, once a week, clearly we're going to be talking about why you want to visit and stay and spend some time in Destination Beaufort. That's clearly the obvious number one post per week. And the second one may well actually be a particular business in Beaufort.
mm,
And the third one may well be about why you should be a member and or why you should listen to the radio station. Maybe it's a combination. So if we were just doing three posts, one is probably about the people that are running this thing and why you should be involved with it if you're part of the community. The other two posts should be more about the bigger picture is Beaufort, the slightly smaller picture is those businesses and attractions within Beaufort, maybe. That's the other thing. So, yeah, so realistically, but in the first instance, and I think the first step, given what I'm hearing where you're at with some of your thinking helicopter around how you're going to promote and continue to do that, is probably just to have that day where we sort of set things up the way they should be set up.
Yeah.
And
So
then,
how do you want to do that? Because we're in Beaufort and you're in Footscray still?
no, but we do it on this. So I haven't since COVID. I reckon I've been to one business, or they've come to me. Really, I'm working out of a co-working. So essentially, this is advantageous because we can record the session, and then you've got everything, right? So yeah, no, we don't generally sit down. Otherwise, I become like a school teacher sitting over someone's shoulder. Realistically, we go in and. Who would you set up as the owner of these? Would we set it up as the president of, or the secretary of, as the ownership
so
of?
What we've been trying to do with Chris is to set things up under the B2B email. So
using that,
transferable to, the next.
So that's the thing. So that makes sense, right? In the main, however, with most things,
at the moment.
with most things, as I said, with the LinkedIn one, I was a bit like, well, do I really need to connect with this new account? Because really, everything else, we're actually just on this and owning this as ourselves, right? So you don't need to set up a pseudo account. In fact, I do this co-working space. They have done that. They've got the iHarvest co-working coordinator as a profile, but it actually becomes a little bit confusing. Realistically, you're better off saying, if Chris is the president and Greg is the secretary, or whatever the roles are, you're better off having that on their actual LinkedIn profiles themselves, and then they're still administrators of various things, right? So that people then know who they are.
Steve, one other thing, Greg and I had a bit of a catch up last night about lots of different things, the website and how it's going. It's back up on up and running, but it's got some issues that they're still sorting out. It was offline for a long time, for a few days, but the sort of thing that Greg and I talked about last night was maybe if we go to steer away from B4B, and that's what B4B is with their Google account, B4B, Business for Beaufort, or the Beaufort Development Group is the Google account, Gmail, yes. So what we thought we might even do is to start afresh and do a Destination Beaufort Google account and run it all out of there. That's the YouTube, the whole lot, out of a different account, and steer it away, because otherwise it's loading up the Gmail or the Business for Beaufort account, and steer it away and have a separate one.
Yeah, is there a that in a way it's probably not going to be. More's the point is, if you want an email, where do you want the email to go at the moment? Who do you, if someone was to email to get more information for whatever reason, where do you want that at the moment? Isn't it the one that is the president at, or what's
we don't have that at the moment.
But it's still
one email.
And it still go to there, and what we're looking at is trying not to overload that particular account too much. To a different one and steer, like Rochelle is saying, we want to, B4B is the owner of this, but we wanted to focus on Destination Beaufort.
Yeah. Well, many clients don't even have their emails showing realistically. Usually they're using sometimes they have contact forms on the website, but because of spam and various things, often people don't use them, particularly if you don't have a specifically info at Destination Beaufort. Then look, by all means you could create, but I wouldn't, if you're not wanting to particularly promote that email, and I don't know if at the moment, do you get a lot of email from interested people coming to that email, or is that not normally how they'd go?
They do. They do actually. Because that email address is actually on our socials. As in B4B Facebook page and Destination Beaufort Facebook page has my phone number, my mobile phone number there for contact, and also the email address. So they get that off the social.
Yeah.
And that would still be okay. But it actually separates, what we were thinking is it separates our Gmail account for B2B to a destination Beaufort Gmail account, which has all the LinkedIn, all the Instagram, all the YouTube, and it's a separate one.
Yeah. And
So
that
possibly
basically,
it could be another Gmail account could be created, or it could be done through the website through webmail. There's a when you speak to Sean, should be able to create through the cPanel once it's all sorted. There's a thing called like webmail, which is like Gmail, but you have to log in through. It's a bit more complicated to do that.
well, and probably to that point, all I would say from a creation and ongoing management, you just need to make sure you've got access to the Gmail that you're going to use. Because the biggest problem, and as I was saying at the start of the session, when people have often come to me, they've got no clue how to get access to the things that have been created, often by a well-meaning niece or a well-meaning agency or whatever it was, and they can't work out how the hell to access it. So the reality is, with you, particularly with your Google account, so your Google Map and your YouTube, effectively it's already been set up. It would just be a matter if you create another detail, it would just be giving that that email and a Gmail and whoever has access to it, ownership of it, for instance, or management, whatever you want to, however you want to see it. But as I said, with your Gmail, it can either be public facing or not public facing, depending on how you want to have it. And it sounds like it would make sense to have a destination Beaufort at Gmail, and that could either be set up as part of your as Rochelle was talking about, your workspace for Google, or it could be set up so that it potentially it forwards to the other email. That's what a lot of people do as well. So, but yeah, that's probably getting into tin tax. I think the reality is that is probably a planning decision. I would suggest to you, if the main focus is always going to be business for Beaufort, what is the ultimate user and the person you're trying to focus on? What are they going to be thinking? They won't be. You don't want to have them confused by me. Now, what am I looking for? Beaufort for business, or business for Beaufort, or am I looking for destination? So if everything sort of says destination for Beaufort, it's always going to be more easy. And in fact, it's destination for Beaufort Vic. I think, I don't know if that was whether you couldn't have the other one, but if you can have the same URL for everything, that's often beneficial, right? So yeah, if someone else has got it, so I think there might be a Beaufort somewhere else, right? In this, is it at Canada or somewhere? I saw,
there is in South Carolina.
Yeah, right.
So that's why we put Vic.
Yeah, the Vic. Yeah. And so that's something else to take into consideration, is that if it's not available, do we need to put Vic on there, everything on things as well, potentially?
You're talking about, I was considering that for the actual YouTube as well, whether to put the Vic on there.
Realistically, what we often do, firstly, some accounts you can only have, so destination Beaufort, for instance, it's too big to have a URL for Twitter. It's only 15 characters, so destination in itself would almost take it out. So what you could potentially do, what's the postcode for Beaufort?
3373.
Yeah, so destination 3373 might well fit on Twitter, but then in actual fact, the name would still appear. You'd still call it destination Beaufort, as in the account name, but the URL might have to be something different. That's all. But it's better to have them consistent, because some of them you can actually flow through. So that naming. But I think the Gmail, more's the point in the first place. We just want to make sure all the people that need to have access, and that they know how to access it easily. The main thing.
And that's something that where I find with the likes of myself and Greg. I have, at our workshop here, we have our Johnson's All Our Care Gmail window open, and also B4B, so that my wife can be watching what's coming in and going out, responding to the emails in our business, as well as B4B, and it comes up on my phone all the time. For Greg, he sees the incoming email now for Destination Beaufort. Well, not Destination Beaufort, sorry, but B4B. All the Gmail emails come in through both our phone, My wife
And laptop.
and yeah, and Greg's laptop, but he can see it on his phone now all the time. So, and we're responding to these emails often. We're reading them, and sometimes you just don't get time to respond to them. But they are on a daily basis. We know what's going on. Is that right, Greg? The pair of us. Yes.
I think, to be fair, the business for Beaufort has always been focused on the entity. I know we're doing all the social, the promotion of the videos, but it's really been a vehicle to organise the organisation. We're not getting too many outsiders contacting us. There might be a local person wanting to join, and that probably suits us at the moment as an administrative tool.
Well, as I
Obviously, the
mentioned before, yeah,
destination Beaufort is taking it onto a different tangent.
yeah,
Gmail.
it's quite similar to what happened with Footscray Traders, to be honest. So Footscray Traders, I set up and managed for probably maybe 4 or 5 years, and just posted about why Footscray and different traders and reviews and different things that we had. Then they also got grant funding, quite substantial grant funding, and then set up a whole hashtag Love Footscray. Right. So in actual
Okay.
fact, Footscray Traders per se doesn't really promote nowadays. Basically, it's all about Love Footscray. So that's not dissimilar to what you're doing here, right? So in some
Yeah.
ways, you're kind of saying, well, okay, and in fact, you could almost merge the two, although they probably Facebook it would almost be more trouble than it's probably worth. You'd probably just leave it up. But um, as far as those channels that are business for Beaufort now, I would almost just have an explainer on that Facebook page that who you are, what you do, and what your
Yeah.
relationship is to Destination Beaufort. Please, follow Destination Beaufort channels for ongoing information. Blah blah blah,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
There's a bit of a plan there, so that's a bit of a work in progress in terms of
Hmm.
cutting all of these little things out. So I
Yeah,
guess the next step would be to organise a date and a time to do all of this planning. And I don't
yeah,
know whether we need to wait till we get all of the videos up on the website, or what
yeah.
should we do? Because
Well,
that was my question.
yeah, so
In
I
terms
would very much split the session, particularly just listening. And again, it would be probably too much, I think, to actually try and do a 5 hour sort of day, which is our typical sort of plan. So the setup stuff into the planning session. I would just do a 3 hour setup session. So then all of a sudden, let that bed down, let that information not be hopefully too overwhelming in terms of what you'll have access and available to you. Do that
yeah,
3 hour session, then whether it's a week, 2 weeks, a month, however long, when you feel comfortable, then to sit down and do the planning session, which is often, as I said, what we do with people, just so that it's not too full on a day. So realistically, the setup, and I'd almost do the setup of the because nowadays they all sit under a business manager, right? So I do the setup of the business manager in Facebook, which is your meta. So where
yeah,
Facebook and Instagram are then integrated, any ads account is integrated within it as well. So that then you're very clear of that your business structure in Meta is all set up the way it should be, and as well as all those other channels. So your Google will revise and update a little bit around the YouTube, and then there may well be things that you then finish off, Rochelle, around the YouTube side of things. But we'll certainly
yeah,
make sure that everything's on there that we would normally expect, professional ones like yourselves to have. And then the LinkedIn company, as I said, whilst LinkedIn company may well sound a little bit unusual, I think it's worth doing. And again, you just explain the main thing that's going to be, aside from that sort of that banner image and the logo, which you clearly already have, is just a really clear about that just really explains that what is Destination Beaufort all about,
yeah,
and where do the parts all fit in, to explain the fact that, Destination Beaufort is a promotion for the region of Beaufort. It is run by, with and for, people from Business for Beaufort, sort of thing. So that way it's very clear. Then people go, oh, that makes sense. So these guys are the ones that are really making things happen around the region. So
Yes.
yeah. So you
Okay,
probably
so
already
you're
have that sort of
recording
stuff
this.
on the website. Generally, people have that on the website, but I'll send you, before our session, I would send you a checklist of what we go through for both sessions, to be honest.
Okay.
So you'd be
Yeah.
very clear of what we're going to get through and what the aim of it all is.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think the best days for Chris is Mondays and Fridays because those are his days off. He's going away in a month.
Okay.
For a month.
Well,
But
Fridays,
he can do
yeah, I can't do Mondays because that's my sort of
Fridays.
lockout day to schedule. But Fridays is often my third most favourite day for setup and planning days.
I don't know how that's going to fit for you, Greg, because it could be a busy day for you.
But if we did the morning, maybe at this sort of time, 9:30 to 12:30 or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that okay for you sometime?
Yeah, on a
Yeah.
Friday. Yeah, on a Friday. Yep, that sounds good to me. Yep. What about you, Greg?
Yeah, Fridays morning's good.
This
Good.
Friday, or do you want to do it? I know it's school holidays because Greg owns a accommodation place, so it's holiday time.
Oh yeah.
Probably extremely busy for him too.
Does that so the next meeting, Rochelle, does that mean that your sound system's going to be better?
You can't hear me.
I can't hear you. You're all muffled. Is that right, Steve?
No, I can hear her okay.
Yeah.
Actually, am I muffled as well though?
No,
Because
No, you're good.
you're as clear as clear. What
You
about
know
you?
what the difference would be is that I have a mic close, whereas
Oh,
so
I'll use
do you as
my.
well. You're using it, yeah, but
Very
I can
I'm
hear you
using
okay.
it. Yeah.
Greg, you're very clear.
Oh, right.
I'm about a foot from the laptop.
Yeah, you're very clear. Can you
Yeah,
hear?
okay.
Can you hear Rochelle very clear?
No, Rochelle's a bit muffled.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
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 Is that better?
I think you might be able to listen
Anyway.
back on the YouTube video. You might find that you'll get my hearing of her then. Who knows why I'm hearing it a bit better.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
So Steve,
No.
you be the best, and then maybe Chris, and then Rochelle. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll try using my the wide ones that go into
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
headphones. That might work a bit better.
And look, the other thing is, yeah, Rochelle. I mean, even just in terms of your time, you know, well, all three of you. The reality is, you were saying with Greg with your accommodation. Probably it's fair to say, as long as one person's in the room, that we can make sure that, and probably it sounds like the main person may well be Chris, is to make sure that all that sort of connectivity is how we want to make sure that he has that connectivity in the first instance, and then. Yeah, but as I said, then if you've got important business to attend to, otherwise you can be in and out of the session. But as I said, if we make it a short 3 hour, short, but it is the setup session, that should enable us good time to really make it look. It'll look bang on. It's not like a website where we sort of have to go to and from. It'll look really good. Should read really well. Assuming, as I said, I'll give you a little check. Just make sure that the long sort of maybe a couple of paragraphs to really explain what we're doing here. You know, what is Destination Beaufort and what are the moving parts as far as that goes. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So do you want to do it this week or do it because we'll probably need to write up stuff, and I don't know about timing to how long it will take us to write.
I don't think it's but like I said, what we don't want to be doing is doing it like a copywriting session. The reality is we want to set it up and do it as well as we can, but at the same time, it doesn't need to be perfect. I would imagine what exists on the website at the moment with
Destination Beaufort.
yeah, what for Destination Beaufort, what does it say at the moment? This is it here.
Just
Yeah.
scroll down to the very end.
Straight away here, this amazing. I mean, that in itself is a positioning, right? This amazing town has so much to. What you'd say, Beaufort is an amazing town that has so much to offer. Stay, visit, or shop, or just explore. So there's a bit of a positioning, if you like, straight away.
I'll put my name to that one, Steve.
Yep.
I'll put my name to that one.
Yeah, no, that's it. So it helps position. Yeah. And so really that's often what we're doing is we're just copying and pasting and rewording what stuff is what they're then going to go and find, right? And so and then so it's very
it's got business for Beaufort on the left there down the bottom.
Yeah, that's right. Then it's got the various you're actually part of the directory. Although that doesn't click into the directory, it's just sort of a little statement of what's
there is a well, this is being revised at the moment after being the hosting. So a lot of these links are not activated
Yeah.
at the moment.
So if you click on, Steve, you go back up again and you click on one of those listings
Yep.
anywhere there, both in Skipton or the storage,
Yep.
whichever.
Oh,
See,
it's,
it's actually it's in the process.
yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
they're being up. They're going to update.
They're doing the picks up there.
Yeah. And
You also click on Destination Beaufort, the word Destination Beaufort.
The logo. Oh yeah.
We're up the
that
top there.
should
Yeah.
usually go to
Yeah.
homepage, doesn't it?
Yeah, go to your homepage up the top
Yeah, that's
left-hand
what
corner
it
and
is.
click
Yeah.
on that one.
Yeah.
See, it changes the, and then you do it again,
Okay.
and it'll give you the.
Yeah.
There's the
We're
band.
going to get all that cleaned up.
Hey,
Hey,
let's
chicken
go.
What you going with?
Now, the reason I say that, Steve, is because a lot of people recognise and have done for years and years Beaufort as the place where it's got a band rotunda. The big clock in the main street. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I know Beaufort. They've got a big clock in the main street there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
So,
yeah, I hear you. There's ones, my son's just moved down to Warrnambool, and there's that same sense of, there's the various towns on the way that have that sort of landmark type
that's it. It's a
things. Yeah.
landmark.
Yeah. And I think, well, more's the point as well is that's what I was saying to you before, as far as having an integration of wording and imagery. So whatever you do choose to go with, and sometimes people use transitioning ones, right? And I think this changed, didn't it? But realistically, just be consistent. So Australia, as soon as I go from the Destination Beaufort social channels, and by the way, you can integrate. You should be. I don't know if this is done on a WordPress. Is it a WordPress
Yes, it
site?
is.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
WordPress. Yep.
So
Yeah.
you basically can, just by way of showing you, I think you might have seen it. It's the easy way for me to work out how to get to my socials, right? So you open them all in different. You then have them opening in different channels. So whatever it is, takes people straight away. And again, that's part of the write up that we normally do after the setup day, is that we actually tell what this is the stuff that we just want your web person to consider or add as far as the social media side. Once we've created these channels, how do we integrate it back? There's a bit of pixel which we talk about in the planning session. There's a bit of pixel code that we can put behind the site so that tracks. It's a bit like our version of analytics, so we know that it's actually working. People are coming and looking and finding out more. Because
Yeah.
remember, socials is a bit like a PR snap. It's a small amount. So even when we were doing the videos, I don't know how long Rochelle's videos go for.
30 seconds, under a minute.
Yeah. So the way Facebook claims it, if people watch the first 10 seconds, that's an engagement, right? So if you can get somebody watching 10 seconds, you're doing well, realistically. But what I was going to say is what we're then also going to be knowing is that people often say, well, I don't know if this is working, but basically our pixel will be like, okay, but there's hundreds of people going through the website. There's 100 people at least trying to find out more about what's going on, right? So, and then it helps with all the other things that you're doing, right? So, because it's not just social that's will be attributable. It may well be the fact that the radio, or what might be other things that are actually contributing to website traffic, for instance. But anyway, but the reality here is there's things and improvements that can be made to the website that are fairly basic. That your web person would be able to help with, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to most likely we'll get a more up to date theme, a lot more modern and more easy to engage with. So
it's a little bit of a revamp.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Well, the main thing that sort of straight away is that you've got this. You want to have your logo. You can put your logo in there, right? Straight away, you put that up there. So yeah, it's definitely the same place. And that's and then, as I said, the links. You could put the feed. So you'll see again. You can embed the feed at the bottom of pages as well. You could include Messenger if you want people to be messaging and that sort of thing too. That's often what we sort of suggest to people. And then again, it's just that integration. So whether it's at the bottom or at the top, you don't. And again, when we do that, just to tell your web person, make sure it opens to a different tab. It doesn't go straight over the top, otherwise you lose them. That basically.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And that's what ours does at the moment, Steve. It opens a separate tab.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, that's right. So that's how you want it to be.
And then when you return, you go back to the website.
Yeah, it sounds to me straight away. For Business for Beaufort, you're going to be able to get your you can get your way, Chris, by changing and put the rotunda into your Business for Beaufort picture. There you go. Put that up there. You get your rotunda there, and then
Hey, come on.
and put this B for B, and maybe I did you a little square that actually fits, so you could actually make this your logo and this your rotunda. There you go, and then you'd be winning.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. The other thing that we've got, Steve, in our toolbox is an amazing guy who's luckily related to us. My wife and I. He's our son-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
You might like to Google it at some stage, Steve. Ben Sanders,
Mm-hmm.
illustrator. He's done the illustration work, and he's very good at his job. And if we need any illustration work, little tabs, icons, or something like that, he's the man to do that. So we've got that in our toolbox.
Sure, nice.
At some stage, if you just Google, he's very, very good. He's doing a gold medal illustration. So
nowadays, I would use LinkedIn. If he's on LinkedIn, it sounds like he will be. I won't need to Google him, or if I do Google him, it'll just take me to his LinkedIn profile.
yeah.
So yeah, did you want to make a? Did we say this Friday, or did you prefer the following Friday?
Following Friday would be. Yeah,
This Friday.
you're saying this Friday, Cheryl? What about you, Greg?
I'm not fussed. I suppose the AGM's coming up on the 4th of July.
Which is next Tuesday.
And we talked, Chris, about we're going to have to probably have a brief standard meeting because there's quite a few things to be ratified. And we've got to be careful not to be going off and making too many executive decisions without running it past the committee because it is a democratic process.
Spot on. Yep.
Oh,
so
you got to love it.
We're trying to balance.
Yeah.
I had 15 years in local government. This is scaring me. My goodness.
Yeah.
But I think doing the setup, sounds like to me, I would suggest you do the setup before the AGM and then the planning after the AGM because it sounds like then that might be the way. Yeah, it might be the way to do it.
Yep. Okay. So this Friday.
This Friday, 30th.
Yeah, it's just the setup. Everything else is a bit of a work in progress anyway.
Yeah, that's it.
Because we need to plan what type of posts and just plan that approach. I'm guessing, which would be the next step. So all of the back end stuff, which is what I was trying to do with Chris, and probably not going very well. But if we get all that right, then the next one will be a smoother transition for it to happen and make some calls, discussions, and so forth after the AGM. I think we're going to have I'll take it offline.
Are we? So is 9:30 to 12:30 sound okay on Friday?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have to in and out of a session from time to time because we get interruptions here at the workshop, as you've seen from time to time. I've got customers coming in and sometimes need my attention. So
I think, given what Rochelle's probably made a start on, I think we're between us we'll be fine. We'll get there, and it'll be good. Yep. And as I said, I'll send you after this. I'll send you a checklist. I'll send you the checklist for both sessions, albeit that the planning will happen at a later date. But at least you can then see what that session entails as well.
Yeah.
Now, I've just looked at my calendar from 11 o'clock next Friday. I've got to spend 2 or 3 hours cleaning. I know it sounds a bit mundane, but I'm it. So next Friday, I can probably do up to 11, and then I'll leave it up to you.
You meant Friday the 30th, or?
Yeah, Friday the 30th. Yeah, it's school holidays.
Yeah.
So
I'm the same. I might send a message to my 7-year-old's mum to suggest that it might be best that he gets put into a school holiday program. Otherwise, there's a lot of iPad time. All right. That sounds good. As I said, I'll do a little calendar for us, and we use a thing called Basecamp, which Rochelle's I think seen before. So effectively, that'll send it. It'll send you an email in the first instance. You'll get an invite to that, but that email, whether you then accept that invite into Basecamp, it actually keeps all the communications in a singular thread. So in other words, we don't lose things that come and go.
Messenger
So
it's a platform.
Yeah, that's right. It's just a tool that we use to make sure that all our information, we don't miss anything, and that we maintain it all in one place. So even when people send me an email, I'll often just copy and paste it into Basecamp. So I kind of, as I said, I don't forget it. And in this video, for instance, today, I'll go in there as well and that sort of thing too.
Yep. Fantastic. Yep.
All good.
Well done. Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Steve.
Well, I appreciate it. It's great to meet you all, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So it sounds like
Thank you, Steve.
it's
Yeah.
going to be really good.